Hi, I'm State Representative Ryan Mackenzie, and welcome to another episode of Legislative Report. Today, I'm here at Dreibellbis Farm with Mark Dreibelbis. Mark, thanks for having us.
Well, great to be here. One of our missions of acquiring the property is presented to the public as an educational facility. So to have the exposure and have you visit is right in line with our mission.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking to learn more about it, so why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the history of the farm?
Okay, well, history goes way back. Original ancestor came from Switzerland in 1732, landed in Philadelphia, worked off his passage for 11 years working in a button factory, got to know his indenturer, Casper Wister, who is a real estate magnate in Berks County. Casper set him up with a farm in Fleetwood, moved to Fleetwood, started farming, had 7 children, and unfortunately he died kind of young, and his children went to become a ward of the Merkel family, which lives down the road. And lo and behold, the oldest son married the oldest Merkel daughter, and from his father-in-law acquired 1,500 acres, which was the start of this farm in 1778.
No kidding. So now the farm is still in your family here, and so tell me how about that transgression occurred.
Yeah, so that the farm started in 1778 and has just been continuously owned in the farm family, from father to son to relative down the line. I was connected here at the 3rd generation. Now I'm the 3rd generation of my family lived here. I'm the 9th generation now. A few years ago, my wife and I had the opportunity to acquire the property with the intent of turning it into a farm museum. So we acquired it from the previous Dreibellbis owner, who was a family relative, and we have continued to operate it then as a farm. Berks County Conservancy at that time, now it's Berks Nature, bought the development rights, and we formed a nonprofit to develop and present the farm to the public as an educational facility.
Well, that's fantastic. We appreciate all the work that you're doing with the historic preservation here. It's fantastic to keep the original history going. Now, you also do some big events. You told me that there is a big event that just occurred here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, just last week we had our annual farm festival. It's always the 4th Saturday of August, the weekend before Labor Day. We had over 43 reenactors, 4 musical groups, tours of the house, hay rides, children activities. Over 500 visitors came to the festival. And it really makes the farm come alive. It displays an example of what early farm life would have been like at that time. Other activities, we have a hayride bonfire in October. One of our feature things actually is an ice harvesting demonstration in February.
Ah, okay.
Of course, all the antiques, artifacts, pots, pans, quilts, farming equipment were all here on the farm, and we acquired it intact. So we found we had ice harvesting equipment that they used to cut blocks of ice from the ice pond, store it in the ice house, with the intent really for cooling their milk from the dairy herd. It wasn't so much for food preservation, it was they could cool their milk and get it to the dairy before it spoiled. So we reenact that in about the first week of February.
That's
and
fantastic.
We understand we're only one of 2 places in Pennsylvania that do a reenactment of ice harvesting.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay, well, that's great.
Then in the spring, we have a spring peeper walk. We have a significant wetland here, and the spring peeper frogs just come alive, and we do an amphibian nature walk. And then about a month later, we do a spring wildflower walk.
Very nice. So really activities going on year-round on the
Yes.
property.
And,
Well, that's fantastic.
And we are open for tours for historical groups and select groups with an advance appointment. We can give tours of the house.
Good. Well, so you mentioned the house. There are a number of different elements that we're going to see here on the property today. So why don't we actually head over to the house and take a look inside?
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Come on in.
All right. So we are now inside the house, and it's beautiful. It's still...
The first house stood for 100 years. It was a log house, and then right after the Civil War, it was a time of prosperity in the country. They tore that down and built this pretty well appointed for a farmhouse. Wallpaper, carpeting, side lights on the front door. Even some of the furniture is pointed to that the family was doing pretty well. There were 3 generations here who were state legislators. The original builder, Jacob B., went to Bucknell. 3 generations of the family were the local justice of the peace, and we'll see their office. They taught school at the one-room schoolhouse, which is at the head of the lane. So they have a very active family, and it almost seemed like they were willing and ready to do anything but farming.
Okay.
And so the farm was running, but they had a lot of sideline interests.
Well, that's an incredible history. And so at what point did this stop being used as an everyday home?
Probably through the 70s and 80s, as the farm was dwindling and the present owners were getting older, they tended to live more in the summer kitchen. Pretty much worked in the fields, came in, lived in the summer kitchen, ate, and slept there. Their life was pretty simple, so they didn't really need the extent of this house. So all the antiques and artifacts and furnishings just stayed here.
And now it's being preserved at this point by the family.
Yes.
And so what are some of the key features or elements to the
Well, we
home?
can go right into the living room here. When we took this over, it was being used as a granary. There were 15 bags of wheat stored here.
And this is beautiful.
Of
So
course,
again,
in the old days, you didn't use the living room unless a minister came to visit or you had company. So this stayed pretty well preserved. Interesting story. The girl that lived here with these people, Joel and Betty, their daughter was denied the opportunity to marry. She had to stay behind to take care of them in their old age. So she's done a extremely unique form of art that's never been seen anywhere else in the world, which I'll show you a little bit later and see if you can guess what it is. So also behind the door here, there's a duck feather funerary wreath that she made. And actually my daughter still plays this at our family reunion.
oh, no kidding. So the organ still works. That's fantastic. It's a beautiful piece of artwork in addition to being an actual instrument that's still used. That's fantastic. And so the rest of the portraits in the room are just other family members throughout the years?
Actually, who we acquired it from, the boy in the dress. I'm told the boys wore a dress or skirt till they were toilet trained.
Okay.
Joel and Betty. Hannah Blandina is here. Hannah Blandina Dreibelbis. She's the one who did the unique art form.
All right, now we're upstairs in the home and there are 5 different bedrooms up here. We're going to take a look at one of the bedrooms here, and why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about this room?
Well, some of the unique preservation of the house. We show the original carpet, original wallpaper. All the furnishings are probably about Victorian period. Each room has a place for a stovepipe, where there would have been a stove in here for heat. Of course, there were no closets, and you really didn't have much clothing like we do today. You pretty much had 2 sets of clothing for working in the field, and maybe 1 set of clothing for going to church. So, you know, you didn't need a big closet space. On the bed, there's a teddy bear that's made of natural animal fur. All the quilts were here. We found in the attic a trunk of 20 brand new quilts. Of course, in the old Pennsylvania German fashion, you didn't use the new stuff, you just kept using the old stuff until it wore out.
Sure.
In fact, we found a pair of bib overalls with 7 patches. On a
Oh my
patch, on a
goodness.
patch, on a patch. 7 patches stacked up.
That's
to
fantastic.
Preserve that pair
That's
of
good.
pants.
This is really a treasure that you have here in Berks County. So we came down the hallway, we passed some of the bedrooms, and now we're going to head into the office.
Yeah, so a couple generations of the family functioned as a local justice of the peace. So people would bring cases here of debt collection, actually domestic abuse, theft, robbery, and either if it wasn't settled here, it would be referred to court into Reading. So we have records of a lot of debt collection, marriages, divorces, things like that would be conducted here. The office was piled full of everything when we got here, so we kind of opened that up. Some of our family artifacts on the table, pictures of the family that lived here, family Bible. One member of the family here ran the store in Virginville. A general store, unfortunately burnt down in the 60s because it was a museum itself from attic to ceiling of 200 years of leftover merchandise. But they ran the store, they taught school up at the head of the lane, which is where we think this remnant map came from.
Oh, wow.
Oklahoma here is called Indian Territory. So this goes back a ways.
Yeah, that is a fantastic old map that you still have here as a part of this home.
I just went to Antiques Roadshow and took these 2 plates of George and Martha Washington and a powder horn.
Yeah.
They gave us a value on it, which is not a lot, except that it points out that everything in the house really put together is a unique collection.
Sure.
And a testament of the family history and things that were important to them at the times. So the family left all this stuff behind, typical Pennsylvania German fashion. They never threw out anything. So.
Yep. And now, do you have a favorite artifact or element that's here at the home?
Well, I think some of the artwork of Hannah Blandina and the Native American arrowhead collection is really unique and pretty unusual to have that kind of collection on site where the Indians actually lived.
Well, you mentioned those 2 things. There are your favorites here, so let's actually go take a look at them right now.
Right out in the kitchen.
All right, so now we're in the dining room area or where they would have eaten, and we have this beautiful collection of arrowheads.
This farm sits at the intersection of the Saucony Creek and the Maiden Creek, and it's documented on a major trade route from Chesapeake Bay up through Reading, through Virginville, Tamaqua, on up into New York, into Canada. And we have artifacts here from Ontario and North Carolina that represents that this was kind of an active trade route. All these artifacts were found on the site, and they tell a progression of the ages. We have some that go back to Archaic period, 12,000 BC.
Oh my goodness.
Up until contact with the settlers. So this really, it was a significant and continuously occupied site for years.
And now they're organized in a distinctive way, and why is that?
Yes, well, again, we're back to Hannah Blandina. So she had a drive for symmetry, and she arranged these arrowheads in this pattern. They're a little before her time, because there were, not too long ago, the Indians were kind of regarded as a something not to be really highlighted and studied. It was just kind of pushed out and forgotten about. She arranged this unique art form of these animal parts. And you see that we had that fishnet there before. These are the mouths of a sucker.
Oh, no kidding.
Now, what would possess you to take a fish, cut its mouth open, dry it, invert it, and arrange it in a frame? And there's 5 of them.
No kidding. Well,
there's about 400 in each frame.
It's incredible. It is very unique, as you mentioned, but it's actually beautiful. All right, we're going to touch on one more bedroom before we head outside. And I see some interesting pieces in here as well. Certainly a Singer sewing machine, a cradle, some other things. Why don't you tell us what we have here?
So this bedroom actually is right above the kitchen, and there's a back stairwell. So you can think of the cook having occupy this room, so they get down and get the fire going in the morning, get breakfast cooking. A few remnants of children on the farm with a cradle and a toy cradle. The Singer sewing machine, of course, I talked about the patches on all they made
Sure.
the quilts and clothing and repairs, so that was foot power. They didn't have to worry about the electric going off.
Well, that's a beautiful piece. Yeah.
Electric was put in here in the 30s during the Rural Electrification Act.
All right, well, Mark, now we've made our way outside. We're here by the garden. Why don't you tell us about some of the buildings we have on the outside?
Okay, so of course the farm wife would be very active in a garden to raise food and preserve it to feed the family for the year. Joel and Betty were, again, the people who upgraded the farm, and the farm historically was active in raising poultry with ducks and chickens. And right after the Civil War, decided they needed a new chicken house. So they built this pretty substantial building with the idea they were going to put a couple thousand chickens in there. But unfortunately, it failed because there wasn't enough ventilation. So they put a ventilator on the top to try to gain even more ventilation, and it worked some, but they never really could get the number of birds in there they wanted to.
Okay.
We have the goal of trying to refurbish that and turn it into one of our display buildings.
Oh, interesting. And so there are some other buildings here. We have a summer kitchen, a meat house. Why don't you tell us about those?
Right, so right behind us is a butcher house that acted as the wash house. When you weren't butchering, you had the kettles in there that you could heat hot water. So that became where you did your laundry. There was also a creamery there, an underground vault that the milk cans would be set in a tub of cold water to cool, but it was underground, so it stayed cool in there. Down behind you there is the remnants of the ice house, and we were in the process of putting a new roof on that too to display that as an original ice house.
And all of these buildings sit on a property that's how large?
Yeah, so the farm is 180 acres now. Originally it was 1,500 acres, stretched all the way up toward Lenhartsville. We're down to 180. Part of it's farmed with certified organic, and we have significant wetlands and wildlife habitat as well.
Great. Well, Mark, I want to thank you again for showcasing this beautiful property, doing all the maintenance and upkeep that you do throughout the year. We appreciate that. If people want to learn more about the farm, where can they go?
Well, unfortunately, our website right now is down, but we will have a website, and contacting me through the Dreibellbis Farm Historical Society could be a way to arrange a tour for a private group.
Mark, I want to thank you again for everything that you do to preserve this farm and allowing us to come visit you today. And I want to thank the viewers as well for tuning in for another episode of Legislative Report. We'll see you next time. I'm your state representative, Ryan Mackenzie.